This is Let's Talk Business with your hosts, Marc Ebinger and Heather Boehme. Now, here's Marc.
Welcome to Let's Talk Business, the show that talks entrepreneurship with some of the best businesses in the San Antonio area. Coming up on the show today, we're going to talk with Jerrod Smith, the CEO of AN Global San Antonio, a business brokerage for small and medium-sized businesses. Jerrod, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me again. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. And we're also going to talk with Chris Whitwell, a commercial insurance agent with RPM Insurance and Risk Management. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
And as always, Heather Boehme, our certified business coach, is joining us. Heather, welcome back.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. And I'm your host, Marc Ebinger, the owner of Crükus Marketing Agency, a company that specializes in giving small businesses a competitive edge by hiring lead generation and administrative experts from the Philippines for as little as $7 an hour. It's a fancy little skill that I picked up while building my own business. And I have a team of, I think, 17 or 18 people now that really push my business forward. So I love it.
Awesome.
So, Jerrod, you are getting busier and busier.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how are things going with the business brokerage?
So they're going, they're good. You know, it's a kind of a shaky time right now with everything going on in the world. You know, I think some of the issues with the debt ceiling and that just seems like this year has been a little bit of a rocky year so far.
Well, and whenever you have difficulty, there's always opportunity,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
So what's hot in the business buying and selling industry nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like IT firms, you know, are really hot, you know.
For buying or selling?
For both.
Jinx.
Both, you know, they either way, you know, easy to find buyers for it, easy to find, you know, if I can get a seller.
Interesting.
Why is that?
Just because, you know, everything's needing cloud, everything is, you know, every business needs some type of IT if you think about it. You
Didn't
know,
the tech industry just like lay off a bunch of people from that, or is that a different part of the tech world?
I'm not really sure about that one.
I don't know
yeah.
either.
So are you talking IT for small to medium businesses?
Yeah, depending,
Oh.
you know, just the variance, you know, you talking, you know, IT technology, the managed services, you know, who manage, you know, like cloud-based services or, you know, the computers for like hotels, that kind of thing. If you think about a lot of these businesses all use, you know, some form of technology in their processes. And so usually if they're somewhat of a large or, well, small business, you know, in that $1 million, you know, they're needing some type of IT.
Yep.
You know, so there's...
Who are you going to call when your
there's
computer
always an
breaks?
IT, you know, so your choices are usually a large IT company or your small mom and pops here locally. And so,
Well, and the big thing that I think, like for my company, that I don't even really understand all of the IT stuff
Exactly.
that I may need. I become more and more aware of it as more people I talk to, but still, it's the security side
Exactly.
of it. It's protecting that intellectual property that's out there in the cloud somewhere and making sure that your employees, the right employees, have the right access, and then it doesn't get outside of that little hub that you want to have it in.
and that's very important to most businesses. They want to protect all of their stuff, as well as making sure that the right clients or customers or employees get the right info, you know, and not the top secret stuff or, you know, the stuff that they shouldn't be getting access
Right.
to. So absolutely, that's really important. You know, another big business that seems really popular is coffee shops. You know,
Yeah.
if you think about it, there's coffee shops coming up, you know, all over. I think Black Rifle just opened their second, third one here in San Antonio, off of 1604 and Petrenko right there. You know.
Oh, really? I
Yeah,
didn't know
and there's
that
like
opened
So
one.
there's a
There's like-
corporate-owned one somewhere.
In Bernie.
And then there's,
Yeah.
there's I guess there's franchise and corporate-owned ones?
I think the corporate-owned one is in Bernie because they came down and they're just ensconced in the middle of the cute little downtown, and now they're opening all their franchise locations. When I was there for a meeting the other day, I saw like some of the corporate like executives come in, and they were
In Bernie
seeing
or
how-
here?
here in San
Bitters?
Antonio. So for those of you who don't know, Black Rifle is like all of our networking go-to stop
Yeah.
to have meetings at. It's basically where all of us get together.
We're on a
to
first-name
talk.
basis over there now.
I
They
think
should
they know
know us.
everybody that goes there.
Yeah,
No,
the
they're
owners
just so
should
mean.
definitely
Yeah.
get plugged
That
into
hurt my
this.
feelings. I thought I was special.
Well, and everybody
Yeah.
goes there too.
And
Yeah,
I think
just
I think
kinda
it
ties
being
together, yeah.
Military City USA also
Mm-hmm.
helps with Black Rifle because you know, for me being a veteran, that's one of the biggest things that I love about Black Rifle is
Great
it being
vibe.
a veteran, you know, and so I want to support local veteran, you know, and I'd much rather go there than, you know, a national brand like Starbucks. You know, I love Starbucks, but I would Black Rifle any day over Starbucks. just
Yeah, they're right
because,
across the street.
You know, I love Veteran. Yeah, they're literally like two restaurants or two buildings down if you
Yep.
go, you know, at that one. I mean, and same with the one off of Petrenko. There's one literally right across the street from there.
What is that business? I can't remember what. It's like similar businesses that attract the same kind of client. It's why McDonald's and Taco Bell
Burger
are always
King.
next to each other. It's because it, to a certain extent, until it's oversaturated.
But if you
it
ever
drives
go,
your customer
they're
base
always
up.
busy. Every coffee shop's always busy. I don't, you
The
know,
ones with drive-thrus,
you know,
at least.
they're always, you know.
Yeah, people want their
everyone wants
iced coffee
you know.
macchiatos.
I still can't get over iced coffee. I'm not a, you know.
Well, that's
You don't
the
do
thing.
iced coffee?
I don't do iced coffee. I feel like it's. I don't know. I have to have.
I drink
is
it
I
too
have to
fast
have
'cause
warm
it
coffee.
feels
I
like
know,
a drink.
but
This is
I have.
Texas,
Maybe
dude.
it's the military in me. You know, I have to have warm coffee. I'm like, cold coffee just feels weird to me.
It's the 10 words a title. Like, I want the super tall da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, over ice, add caramel. Like, that's where I get lost.
Draw the
I
line.
know, right?
But that's the thing.
Intimidating.
I feel like, you know, I think people romanticize starting up these little coffee shops,
do.
and they
Yeah.
think it's so great, but they don't really think about the cost. I met some people at Launch San Antonio, help small businesses get started. They have a thing every month that's 1 million cups, and you go and brainstorm, right?
Yeah, I've been there.
And I met someone wanting to start a coffee shop, but what they didn't really realize is, you know, it costs probably around, even if you want to just start a truck, you're talking $30,000 to $70,000 just to get the ball rolling.
I'll give you
on-
I'll give you another good example though. You know, and this might be a plug for somebody. I have my wife has a friend. My kids, you know, are friends with them. They opened a coffee shop in Lacoste. I don't know if you know where Lacoste is.
Yeah.
It's in between Castroville and Lytle. And it's a little town. I mean, and it's not the most rich town, or you know, it's a little run down town. And they opened a coffee shop up there. And when I first heard they were going to open up a coffee shop there, I was like, man, that's probably a bad spot for a coffee shop, because there's just nothing there. And I mean, if you've got 90 on one side and 35 on the other side, you know, and so people
People
to
are
come
just
through there,
zooming
you know,
by,
like
yeah.
how are they going to get customers? You know, it's out of the way. It doesn't seem like man, every time I drive by there, it's always busy too, you know, and I'm
for
like,
them.
and yeah, exactly. I mean, and they do have great service. It's called Schultz, so if anybody wants to go check it out, I'll throw that out there for them. But it's a great coffee place, but it's in a little out of you know the area, but it's a great spot for, you know.
There's
it's still
definitely
busy.
demand for the industry, but I think people really do underestimate the amount of work it takes to start one from scratch,
Absolutely.
which is why buying into a franchise or buying into an existing business that already has a customer base can be such a great solution.
And that brings, you know, that comes to the next point, and that's where buying a business is great. And the biggest issue that I've been seeing this year is that the buyers have been very cautious on what they're buying. They almost want sure things. You know what I mean? And you know, that's sometimes very hard. And of course, when I'm dealing with some of my businesses that I am selling, you know, they're not necessarily sure things. You know, they may be a little bit more riskier. They may be a little bit more, you know, you know, at risk of failing. But you know, with the right business owner, they could turn it around. I mean, I'm sure you understand that as a business coach, right, Heather?
Yeah.
You know,
And I think, you know, there's no guarantee on anything, especially in business. There's always going to be a risk. But I heard something this weekend, and it was basically like, there's limitless opportunity when like you can see and be creative to find a solution. So it's not so much about being guaranteed anything. It's more seeing the potential in making a difference, solving a problem, and putting a plan of action in place.
you know, and I'll put another example. I've got a business that I have listed for sale right now. It's education tutoring learning facility. You know, and the guy, you know, I don't think he was really knowledgeable about. This wasn't his initial industry, you know, and so he opened up one facility. It was doing great, so he decided to open up a second one. And I think he got a little overwhelmed, and so that second one, although it makes decent revenue, I think it's somewhere around $400,000. It's not performing well, you know. And so the guy wants to get rid of it, you know, because of that, you know, and he just wants to focus on his one because he's a little bit older and that, you know, and so he's selling it for steal, in my opinion. He's only selling it for $25,000. You're right. Now is it a risk? Absolutely, because the business isn't necessarily performing that well. But if you get the right manager there, it's already making $400,000 in revenue. Is the lease? The lease is definitely an issue. It's a very high lease, and I think if they get once that lease ends, and I think it's August or October, I think they'd be a little bit better off with the lease because it's really expensive. But it's a great opportunity for somebody to get into something that's already established, that's already got FF&E, furniture, equipment already there, already got people established, everything's already there, and try to help turn it around. But people aren't wanting to take that risk, and that's what right now. That's what is creating a lot of that issue right now.
It's just a numbers game, right? I
right,
mean, I have a lot of questions. I don't want to get into the weeds, but I love this, the acquisitions of businesses. Yeah. It's an area that I have a lot of interest in. I don't want to break that down too much, but as far as what's hot now, did you talked about commercial insurance is something that is trending? Or
commercial insurance is always something. I mean, it's a must for every business. You know what I mean? And so it's something that's always going to be important when it comes to business. And I think it's something that anybody that's either thinking about starting a business or buying a business, talk to their commercial insurance or figure out what that is going to be looking like, because they're some of the risks that you come into is if you're buying a business that maybe did have a claim or did have some issues, that can affect that insurance. And I'm sure, you can comment on that one as well, and some of those issues that you run into. And
well, do you actually, is that one of the things you look at when you're consulting on that?
Typically, no, to be honest. I mean, I do ask, if they have any, like legal issues or lawsuits or stuff. It's not something that I typically, and I think maybe that's something that after today, and maybe something I may need to start asking if that's a concern. And I would like to know.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on it, Chris?
I feel like where it comes into play, especially in the acquisition part of things, is if there's any kind of liens specifically on a property. If they own the property and there's a lien, there's a lender, there's a loan that exists that if something were to happen to the property, the lender wants to get made whole. Mm-hmm. That's when it's important that they absolutely have some sort of insurance in place. But it's kind of the Wild West outside of that, right? If you
Yikes.
don't have those liens, you can elect to retain your risk, aka not get a policy and roll the dice that you either have enough saved up or something along those lines. And I think it's really important, especially with cost of everything nowadays, to definitely cover yourself.
Well, that's something, it's been a big topic of conversation everywhere these days, has been the cost of insurance rates, especially in the commercial world.
Well,
and from
personal world too, sorry.
Personal world.
Yeah. Mine just jumped up, significantly, and I was like, all right, I guess it's time to go shopping for insurance.
Talking about health insurance?
No, I'm talking car insurance. My car insurance went from like $400 to like $900. Yeah, I was like,
come up due, right?
Yeah, it's like, I think we're trying to look for it, look for different
but that
insurance.
was a big topic of conversation because, in the commercial world, it used to be you could kind of assume what the insurance would be in certain investments that you were making, and now that's no longer the case.
Right.
So what has been the change?
Yeah, so addressing the elephant in the room that a lot of people like to skip over. Insurance companies are a for-profit company.
What?
They want to make money. They don't want to hand it out, right? But when we go to these insurance companies and we're trying to look for cheaper rates, it's like, the absurdity of all this, right? These insurance companies will never take a loss. And if they do, they're very gracious in passing it along.
Yeah.
You've seen that with
the
USA.
client.
Absolutely.
So what we've seen, though, through COVID and through that barge that got stuck, that was costing like, $1 billion
years ago.
I forgot about that.
I saw memes on that.
Yeah.
Lumber prices went skyrocketing because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Used cars. My wife bought a car in 2016, brand new, Mazda 6. It was like $12,000. Fast forward to 2021, we went to sell it and could get $19,000 for it.
That's crazy.
Now, you're an insurance company, and you wrote a policy for a $12,000 car that it now totals out and is $19,000, and you're paying that out but you didn't adjust the cost of the insurance. Now you're losing money. So when this happens large scale, and that's only one small instance of it, right? Building houses. We have this housing boom that happened during COVID. And houses were shooting up and people were buying properties left and right. And the insurance was stepping in and insuring these things. And then because the housing boom was going on, individuals were paying $50,000 over asking price, artificially inflating the market around them, right? And now making insurance costs go up. But if that property burned down before the annual review of the insurance company, they lost money again. So now we're in this circumstance for the last 2 or 3 years. The insurance has struggled. The insurance companies have struggled financially, and they're passing that along.
Yeah, through the car insurance, apparently.
Through
car
every,
insurance,
because everybody
commercial
has to have
insurance, all
car
the
insurance, right?
This is kind of what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
So in that case, part of the due diligence, I would imagine, in purchasing even a business, because there's the physical side of the insurance, but I think a big piece of commercial insurance is more to do with the non-physical side, right? It's the protection from liability.
Right.
We live in a very litigious society, right? So where does that come in play?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. If I asked you what number to call if you get hit by a vehicle, what do we say here in San Antonio?
911. No,
Call
I don't-
force.
4, yeah.
Oh,
Right.
444.
Don't call 911.
Or
What
if
a
you want
great
to-
marketing
Oh
strategy.
yeah, we all
for
just
you.
like put our 4 fingers
I
up.
call the hammer.
Right.
The
Call the
Texas
hammer.
Hammer.
Texas, or
That's what I grew up with in
Thomas J.
Dallas.
Henry, you know,
Yep.
the name you can trust. They're out there, and these are really successful organizations. The Law Guns are another one. But then you have tons of lawyers that are getting started, or there may be medium practice that are doing the exact same thing. The number one thing is if you own a business and there's any kind of liability or injury or damage or anything like that, they're going after the business first and foremost. And if you have not set aside the money to cover that, which we have a personal story on that myself, it turns around and bites you.
Absolutely.
So, Jerrod, when it comes to, so you mentioned coffee shops, right?
Yeah.
Is it like real big now? What else is big now? IT,
you know,
you said.
IT.
What else?
Ooh. That's a difficult. I guess maybe automotive too. You know, like mechanical. Automotive industry is obviously still always
Like Midas?
you know,
right?
or you
Like
know,
a
just
franchise?
either way, or your mom and pop places. You know, if they're making the biggest thing is making sure that they have a good what we call an SDE or seller's discretionary earnings. You know, if they have good seller discretionary earnings, you know, then you're going to get interest. From buyers. You know, because the stronger that is, you know, the stronger they're going to believe in the safety net, you know, that the company has. And so that's where that comes in. So companies that are typically, either not doing well or, just getting started, that doesn't necessarily have that much time to prove that number, those are the ones that struggle the most.
So are we seeing mostly, or are you saying, not we, it's mostly businesses that are struggling and they want to sell to get out, and that's the reason they're selling? Or is it more people trying to retire out of business?
It's about 50-50, I would say. You know, so I get about 50-50 of the struggling, trying to find just some type of, reach to get out of it. You know, the hole that they have dug themselves at, and the other one is, that they're retired. They're retired. They don't have anybody to hand the business off to, and they just want to be done with it. So
Well, let's talk about the struggling one for a minute, because from a perspective maybe of more predatory buying,
Yep.
right, where they're going to come in, they're going to lowball, but they're going to
Absolutely.
make their money back. So walk me through a scenario there where you've got somebody who is struggling. They don't know what they're doing, right? They didn't do the right things, or they didn't understand what they're getting into. And then you have somebody who does know this type of industry. What does that look like?
So I mean, it all depends. It's all. That's a man. You guys are coming with
sorry.
the difficult questions. You know.
Yeah, I don't want to put you on the spot, but
It's
it's out there, right? It's a real
Everybody's
thing.
different, and so the problem is that typically what I've seen is that if their numbers are not there, as far as you're not going to get the interest, from a buyer. And that's what I'm seeing. It's not really people wanting to take advantage or even of them because they don't want to invest in it.
Well, I don't know if it's taking advantage as opposed to just lowballing
or
the offer.
They don't even want to put an offer.
I would call it, how do we create like a win-win situation here? Because if you think of it on the real estate side, right? Are all of us looking to invest in real estate that's already remodeled, flipped, and ready to go? No.
Right.
We're looking for places where we can add our own sweat equity value and then see the return on the other end. So where do those buyers exist that are coming to flip businesses, basically?
But
Right. We need that
there's
Marcus
not a market
Lamone.
for that right now.
We need the Marcus Lamone. I don't know if you've ever seen The Prophet. I love that show. I highly recommend it. If you've never seen The Prophet, it's a Marcus Lamone. If you don't know, do you know who Lamar?
I do not.
Oh.
So he's the owner of Camp World. He took over Camp World, the CEO, and he goes around and he finds struggling business owners, and puts his own money up and tries to turn around the business. Now, obviously, he takes a part of the profit, and but he does there's a whole, he's been doing this for years now.
Yeah.
And there's
I love that kind of business.
There's a
it's
whole
a
show.
win-win.
There's a whole show on it. But the problem is that you have to find the investor that's willing to put that in. But somebody like Marcus Lamone, he's willing to actually put the sweat equity in. Where right now it's just it feels like a lot of the buyers are not wanting to put in a lot of that sweat equity, and that's what we're struggling with. And it feels like it's more because of the current market right now that they're not wanting to necessarily put into that because they're afraid that how rocky this is, it's just too much going on is what I feel like.
Is it the sweat equity or like the monetary equity? Like they would be willing to put in the work, but they don't want to put in the money, or is it that they don't want to put in the work?
I think most of it's put in the work. To be honest,
okay.
I don't think most people have the issue of putting in the money. It's the work. Right? Most of these when I've dealt with the few that have actually reached out to me with interest in a few of the businesses, it's most of them are just it's not appealing to them, so they don't want to put in that work.
Look, I want to frame this just a little differently because I don't think it's necessary to have a win-win situation, and it may not even be possible because the person ran the business so bad that there's no way we can create a win situation other than the win of them getting out.
And that's
That's a win.
And that's
it's a win, but it's not sexy.
No,
and
it's
I
not
agree.
that.
And I
It's gonna
agree,
sting a little bit.
and that is a reality. And usually I try to prepare those sellers into that. I just had one that I was talking to the other day about it, who was a tattoo place, and I said, hey, I will always give my all, and I will try my best at everything, and especially if you come in, and you're trying your best, I will do my best, to help you sell, a business or, find a business to buy, because I always, want to help everybody. And so, especially if they're military, I have a little soft spot in my heart for my military people because obviously I'm a fellow veteran. So usually if they're military, then I go kind of a little bit above and beyond to try to do my best. But, like that situation, I was just like, listen, man, I don't know, if this is going to be viable, to sell, just because the age that they have been operating, they haven't really been operating in a positive light, and that kind of thing. And, the type of business, you've got to find somebody a real specific person, and it's going to be a struggle, but somebody like them, I'd be willing to, give it a try, and see if I can help them. I'd much rather try to help them than save it, and that's why I always, try to see if I can give it to.
Yeah, if they don't have the equity in it, they're going to have to keep it for a little while longer.
You got to try to figure out something, and so.
And I tell people a lot of the time when I'm talking to them, sometimes you gotta experience these rough times. You gotta fail a little bit because you learn the best lessons from failure. So it may not be super win to sell your business maybe at an
and
L.
I do agree with that. Sometimes when
you
you're
learn
starving,
that your wife's not as friendly as she was.
You gotta figure it out.
When you're starving, you tend to tend to do a little bit more, because
You get creative.
to
The
try
less
to
money you
find
have.
that stuff to get that win, and I do agree with that. How many business owners have we heard that have said, I was at that bare bottom with $1 in my pocket, and
Most of the successful people you see online or the big successes in our industries, they all have a failure story.
But see, here's the thing.
Yeah.
We don't want to know what your story is until nobody wants to
You don't want to hear that until you're
until
successful.
you've won.
Yeah, everybody wants to
Right?
hear the success.
Not
But
while you're
there's
going
no-
through it.
Yeah.
They don't care about that. They don't want to hear
But
about
at the end of the day, here's the thing is what I've always heard, every time these successful people have always talked about that down and dirty story, there's always somebody there to help them. There's always somebody there.
You want to be that guy, don't you?
I want to be, I try to be that guy. I don't necessarily say I'm going to always be that guy, but I try to be that guy because we've all been there. I don't know, maybe I've been there. I've been in a dark place before, and had people pull me out. So,
Well, I think the business that you're in is a very important business. It's one of the reasons why I was excited to have you come on the show because it's, business owners can get themselves into a bad spot, and having somebody that gives good advice and has compassion for their situation can be very, very helpful. So, if folks want to get in touch with you, Jerrod, how do they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. They can call me on my cell. It's 737-802-4558. Again, that's my personal cell, so you can text or call me. I'm always available.
Awesome. And your website, what's the website?
It's a little bit complicated because
okay.
I kind of share it with my
Just Google it,
franchise.
right?
Yeah,
and Global San Antonio.
it's easier to find me on like Facebook or LinkedIn than trying to find my webpage. It's a little bit of a pain.
Thanks, Jerrod. We're going to talk to Chris Whitwell here a little bit. Chris is a commercial insurance agent with RPM Insurance and Risk Management. So how did you guys meet? What's the story there?
So we actually, through this organization, or I guess networking group called the Havana Boys.
Oh, yeah, okay,
the
that's the cigar guys.
Club.
Yeah, that and
then
Tim.
Through Tim Nifton.
Tim Nifton,
If you don't know
is-
Tim Nifton in this town,
Everybody
then you
knows
haven't been
Tim
around
Nifton.
enough. Yeah.
I don't even think that's I think people move into this town and know Tim.
I know.
Yeah, he's a professional networker,
Yeah.
absolutely.
He really is.
He's an awesome guy.
Have we had him on the show yet?
No, not yet. I think he's scheduled. If he's not scheduled to come on, I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's actually one of my clients. He has a virtual assistant that handles his bookings, appointments, and all that kind of stuff. So which is super on par as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, so commercial insurance. How did you get started? Why did you even get it started with?
Yeah, before commercial insurance, I was in the mortgage game. I was helping people finance purchases of property through various things, and it was fun. I had a great time doing it. I was really good at it. Dip in the market always puts a little bit of pressure on us, but it aligned. A buddy of mine, Eric Cervantes, owns our firm, and he approached me and he said, "Hey, I got this really great opportunity. I'm expanding, and I need trusted people." Who Eric is also a Havana boy, so kind of that's how we know each other through that. And I said, "You know what? Let's give it a shot." Driving factor behind that, kind of alluded to it earlier, was I've been burned on the insurance side of things, and it's a very uncomfortable experience that I'd like to prevent business owners from having, and so that was kind of fresh on my brain.
It's like the teenager who gets a traffic ticket and says, "You know what? I'm going to be a lawyer,
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
or I'm going to be a cop,
Yeah.
and I'm going to dish the tickets out." Anyway,
But so it's I'm very passionate in that aspect of when. So I had a business, without getting into the details of it. We were sued, like most people who have businesses and or vehicles or personal homes. They just think they're covered, right? You call your insurance agent, "This is what I got. Here's how much it cost," and you think you're good to go, unless you've taken the time to really review what's going on specific to business owners, right? But I did the first part of that example. I did not review everything, and I thought I had certain coverages in place, which I didn't have. And when we were sued, it fell under the type of coverage I did not have. And because I didn't work directly with a broker agent, going straight to the carrier, they're not going to want to represent me. They want to represent themselves. I didn't have a middleman to really help me navigate the process on top of it. And so it was a substantial loss to the business.
Now, are you a broker agent now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're brokerage, absolutely.
So you can fill in that gap, make sure people are getting the whole coverage that they need.
Exactly. Right? We have access to over 20, 30 carriers. So not only can we pair you with the right coverages, but we can get really competitive on price because we have the opportunity to go to a lot of different carriers. And then
Jerrod, do you have insurance?
I do.
Okay.
But I have like really cheap insurance.
You know,
I have Next. I did Next, and I'm sure that's probably.
Well, Chris, I had talked to you about.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I talked to you about wanting to sit down with you and have that conversation. I was dead serious about it because I think that I don't know what I don't know.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And hopefully you'll.
I think that's the key factor with the commercial insurance is like, especially if you're a new business owner, you're not sure all the different ways you could be sued and what you need to get covered on.
Well, and reading these policies is a lot too.
We're supposed to read those?
Yeah, right.
Oh, dang it.
Just agree.
Great example.
That's what we hire you
I thought that was the terms and
Tell it to me like I'm 5.
But great example there is our firm has this client there in the funeral service industry, and we were reviewing their previous policy with them, which they paid around $800,000 a year for.
Whoa!
So
wow.
they pay a lot
I want
for
a piece of
coverages.
that.
And they had some small issues with the policy, some medium-sized issues with the policy that we addressed, but the huge problem that was glaring to us that they had no clues, like, hey, flip over to page 79. Look over and like, hey, what does this exclusion say? And they read it out loud. It excludes funeral services.
What?
Oh, no.
Funeral
Their
service
whole
company.
industry.
You literally have an $800,000 paperweight.
I would be livid.
So
Absolutely.
It's
And that's
super
legal that they were
important.
able to be sold that without somebody saying anything?
That sounds like they could sue somebody for that because
if-
how is that not intentional?
So you could sue for anything, which is why,
give it-
yeah, absolutely.
That's
and if
the
they
whole
have,
reason he has a job.
Man, I tell you what.
Wrong job.
I should have been a lawyer.
if they have loss, I mean, there isn't anything that says they couldn't go after the insurance company for either A, coverage, or B, to be made whole again.
Well, how about all the dues paid?
But the judiciary system is
Yeah.
so expensive. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the whole reason
And
that
time
more stuff
consuming.
isn't.
Time consuming.
Yeah,
It's
and
time consuming. It's
yeah.
expensive. There's a story right now where like Amazon broke a contract with this commercial developer, and Amazon has just covered them in litigation,
Yep.
millions and millions of dollars, and like they're just barely keeping their heads above water to survive and
What
fight
about
it.
the
I
what
mean,
about
it's
the one
crazy.
here in San Antonio, with the eminent domain downtown?
Oh, yeah.
You know?
What's
going on?
that one
So
bar?
there's a bar downtown that they're trying to take because of eminent domain for
Yeah,
the
they're trying to do
Alamo.
it for the Alamo
They're trying to build like a
expansion.
museum, and so they offered the guy like $1 million, which the guy had a good argument because what he said was he's like, yeah, that's what my business may be worth now. He's like, but what about in the next 5-10 years? He's
all the
like,
growth.
he's like, I would have made that if I would have stayed here. You know, like what about, like I'm being forced to leave, so I should get paid for all of that because, and so
Well,
that's
and
his
it's not
argument.
a highway. It's
it's
not
a great location because it's
the city just wants
it's
it.
the
They do.
That's why the
the
city
Riverwalk
council
and
at
everything.
that
Yeah,
one
so they're
charity-
going back and forth. I think the last thing they offered him was like
$5
$9 million.
$5 million is
Was
what
it
they were
$5
at,
million? Yeah, and he wants like $11 million. I think.
Yeah, he bumped it up to 10.
And it goes up every month.
So
That's-
yeah, right.
No,
like-
he literally is doing
Yeah,
that.
but he's
Good for
like
him.
he wants them for what it's worth now and in the future. And I'm like, hey, he had a really good way of looking at it. I was like, that was a
You're
genius
not
way.
going to screw me. That's the
yeah,
way to look at it.
No, that's exactly. So he's fighting it, but yeah, the city's trying to take it.
There's a great picture from New York City of a high rise and then this little house.
Yes,
right,
yeah.
right? And this is the power of people versus this eminent domain BS.
Well, the problem is eminent domain just started like after 9/11 with that whole thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh.
eminent domain is fairly
in
new.
Texas is
It's
pretty
not-
aggressive in the
It's not
property zones.
it's not something that, at least that's the way I understand it. I could be wrong. I'm not a lawyer. We got any lawyers?
Yeah, right.
But I'm
That's
pretty
what
sure
I saw
that
on Netflix. I don't know.
yeah, the eminent domain, the way I understood it was fairly new, and it got started after 9/11 because
Or at least they
that.
became more aggressive.
Yeah,
with it.
or maybe
More
that's what it
aggressive
is.
about
You
it.
know,
You
Well,
can-
we're up on time.
Yeah, whoops.
So, Chris,
Went
if
fast.
folks want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. You can call me at 210-909-1080. Visit the website riskprotectionmanagers.com or shoot me an email, chris@rpmmanagers.com.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Get that
All right.
commercial insurance.
As we wrap up the show, a quick reminder, check out our podcast or catch video versions of the show anytime by visiting our website at satalkradio.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got a lot of content up there. Everything gets posted on our YouTube channel. So once again, that's satalkradio.com. Other than that, you guys have a great week. We'll see you on the next one.
Appreciate you.